I just finished playing several hours of Kirby Air Riders The Global Test Ride. Now, I played this game before at PAX West, but I think they have substantially changed this version of the game for the global test ride. So I'm going to tell you what I think about it, my overall opinions, the riding mode, the city trial mode, and just everything it has to offer, and how I feel about the game after playing all that, and just my thoughts and opinions on it, because I think my opinion on this game has kind of changed a little bit more than what I expected it to do. Like, I don't know. I feel like after really playing these modes for several hours straight, it feels a lot more different than I expected, especially compared to when I played it at PAX. So let's get into it. So this is the big test demo that they announced during the second Nintendo Direct for the game. And that second Nintendo Direct was actually so crazy. They gave us so much information on what's included in this game, like customization, accessories, like on the characters, like including hats, costumes, more characters. They really went ham with the announcements of all the features in this mode in that second Direct. And I think that collectively got everyone on the internet that's interested in Kirby Air Riders, all the Nintendo fans, very excited for this game. In fact, I've seen a lot of people say raise the price, which is kind of silly, but I get the idea. I don't think they're serious. I think, it's just the opposite of drop the price, which is what we've been hearing so much in the Switch era, or the Switch 2 era. But I also saw a lot of people say, okay, I'm actually going to pre-order this game. This looks amazing. There's so much content here. There's a lot of people that all of a sudden got interested in it after that second Direct that I just didn't see before. The hype just wasn't there for a lot of people before. There's the fact that it's like a Sakurai game, and it's the same person who made Smash, and it's like a full game and everything. And then there's the people who just aren't really interested in racing games or Kirby games. But I've seen a large majority of people actually be super interested in what this game has to offer, which is great to hear. I'm happy that people are excited for it and interested in it. And I'm one of those people. I'm super excited about it. I mean, I buy pretty much all the first party Nintendo releases, but this one I'm really looking forward to. I've been a huge Kirby guy for literally the longest time. I love Kirby probably more than any other gaming franchise there is. So the fact that there's this racing game now on the Switch 2, with the Switch 2 graphics and everything, like, that's very good. That's very promising. And the fact that it's made by Sakurai himself is just the icing on the cake. It's the cherry on top is what they say. And I never played the original Kirby Air Ride before. I don't know. I just didn't. I had a GameCube, but at that point I wasn't personally buying games myself because I was a child. So I just never ended up playing the original Kirby Air Ride. So I thought this was great. Kirby Air Riders, this is amazing. So in this demo, they allowed us to play two separate modes. There's the racing mode, and then there's the city trial mode. So we'll talk about each of them at a time. First, we'll talk about racing mode, but before I do that, I want to talk about the overall character and vehicle selection. I gotta say, there is a lot of characters for this demo. I'm surprised they gave us this many. You got Kirby, you got King Dedede, Meta Knight, and Waddle Dee. You got all the big guys, right? And then they decided to throw in a couple of little guys like Megalores in this demo. You got Susie, got the Mushroom, the little floating orange guy, Scarfy, Gooey. Oh, the Mushrooms guy's Cappy. That's his name. Like, there's a very big selection of characters. Unfortunately, they didn't have Marks, the absolute Chad, my favorite Kirby character probably ever. I love Marks the most. He is absolutely insane, but still love the character selection. And then as well as characters, there's vehicles. Now, vehicles aren't as memorable because they're all like original vehicles, but there was a large variety of vehicles that you could pick from, and I didn't realize until now how different these vehicles actually change the gameplay speed and the handle. Like, it is insane how different your character and vehicle selection can actually alter your movement. And I think that's actually one of this game's problems. There is so much difference in the vehicles and the characters overall that there's some combinations that literally just don't work. You just can't race with them. Like, you can, but it's just, I don't know, it's too complicated. It's too drastic of a change to actually use some of these combos. I was using this wheelie guy, and I think I had Rick the hamster. I don't even remember, but it was so turny that you didn't need to use drifts at all. And I know Mario Kart and, Sonic Racing and all these other racing games do this as well, but I never feel like there is this big of a difference in how these stats actually work. Like usually a stat's a little bit different and you can feel it, but you can kind of calibrate to that combo that you're using. But in this case, no way. That's just not the case. It completely changes. The best combination I found was Cappy on the Warp Star. I think that was the best feeling racer that I used. That felt really good in a race. And the thing is, I would probably use him for almost every race I played, but the thing is, I don't want to play as Cappy in the Warp Star, which is kind of the problem. If stats change this much, characters and unlockable vehicles and all that stuff, you just don't want to play the ones that you actually want to play as. You want to play the ones that feel good. And some games actually fix this in some ways. Like I know Crash Team Racing, you can do any character combo with any vehicle and you can just adjust the engine setting and that actually changes the stats of the vehicle that you play as so that you can play as any combo. And I do wish that, even Mario Kart, Sonic, and this game especially had an option like that. And I think there might be some sort of an option in the full game, but that's just something that I realized in this game specifically, this demo, that I didn't realize when I played the first time at PAX. There's just a massive change in the speed and handling when you change your vehicle combos, which I know sounds obvious, but it is very big of a difference, more than I've ever seen it in a kart racer. But anyway, let's actually get into the racing mode. So this is a pretty standard kart racing setup. You got like the drift and then you boost, but drifting in this game feels a lot more central than, in Mario Kart or whatever. Like you need to drift here or you're crashing into a wall. And I like that. I like that there's kind of more strategy in that way. You gotta master the courses a little bit better to just completely tear through them. And it's funny because this game seems like it should be a much easier game than Mario Kart. It's kind of like baby's first Mario Kart, or at least that's how a lot of people view it, I think. But actually, this is a lot more complicated than a lot of people might actually realize. Yet there's a lot of things about it that are babyish. But I'll get to that. Okay, instead of the traditional items, this game uses copy abilities, and these copy abilities are kind of just weird because some of them can activate automatically and like it'll actually just attack someone if there's a person in front of you, unlike in Mario Kart where you can hold onto an item and use it whatever you want. You get the copy ability here and then it only lasts for 15 seconds and then it's automatically used, or you can manually press buttons to use it as well, but it's mostly automatic from what I've seen. And they're just all difficult to kind of control and even to understand what they do. Again, this is just a short demo that I played, but yeah, some of these copy abilities are kind of jarring. And it's funny because across multiple modes, like City Trial mode, the fire ability is different than in the racing mode. So that is a little complicated as well. I think this is why we needed almost 2 hours of Nintendo Directs. But because there's a mix of automatic and manual controls and uses of these copy abilities, it can feel inconsistent at times. Sometimes you want to control, but the game decides for you, and then it's like, oh, okay. There are also these rail sections that are also kind of automatic. There are two separate types of these rail sections. There's the rails where you can actually jump rails and kind of dodge any interference with the game or whatever. And then there's sometimes where there's like a rail section where you actually lose full control. This happens at least once per level. In the first level, it's this rail grinding, and then in the water level, there's this wave that you gotta ride like from a cannon or whatever. And that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But you do lose control in that case, at least from what I understand, from what I've played. Feels a little too guided at times, but it is what it is. It's nice and cinematic. But it is kind of weird how complex this game is, yet how easy they're trying to make it. For example, the full game in racing mode is two main buttons. You have the sucking ability with the B button, and then the A button is to drift. And then occasionally the Y button for your special moves, which every character has individually, which is, amazing. But these two buttons definitely could have been turned into like 3 or 4 buttons. Again, going back to the automatic copy abilities, I don't want it to automatically use my copy abilities or King DDD's hammer or whatever. I'd much prefer to manually do that myself. It just makes the game feel very uncontrollable and janky at times, which might be the purpose of it. Again, this is just a demo. I figured that as I played, I learned that as I played, I got a lot more used to the mechanics. But this does definitely take a lot longer to get used to than a Mario Kart or even a Sonic Cross Worlds. There's just something about it that's a little more inherently complicated. And then also an odd quirk is that by pushing the analog stick forward, you actually slow down, which just seems odd to me. I don't really know why it does that, but it is what it is. That's fine. Now, I know it sounded like I dogged on the racing mode quite a bit, but I actually do really like it. I love the environments. I love the graphics graphics of it. Like, it all just feels really fresh and unlike any other racing game that I've ever played. My only fear with it is that it's going to be hard to understand and learn, especially with other people. But you know what? That's fine. I like how it's complicated in ways, but also too easy in some ways with all the automatic stuff and the 2-button thing. I mean, it is what it is. My biggest thing is actually the vehicles and character customization, how different they can feel in the racing mode. But again, I just got to play it longer and see how that goes. I'll get used to it for sure. Then we have the city trial mode. Now, this was sometimes fun and sometimes a little bit boring. I really don't know how to explain this mode. So let me just try and give you the details of how you play. The concept is you go around and you collect these stat boosts. You got like speed, attack, defense, and stuff like that. And you have to get all these stats within a 5-minute time limit. And you're playing against 7 other people. So there's 8 people on the map. And by going around and attacking people, you can steal their stats. And as you collect these stats, it uses them in game. Like if you collect speed, you're getting faster in city trial mode. Then there are these events that randomly happen during the game, like a cloud boss fight. His name is Krakow. Then there's like these portals that open up that you can blast through, or there's player duels where you can fight other people, and the one who wins gets a bunch of new abilities and stats. And that keeps things pretty lively. It makes every city trial mode that you play, like every round, feel very different, which I really appreciate, because I can see it getting a little repetitive if it didn't have that, especially because it's all on one map and there's no other map. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, you enter one of 4 mini games, and you play as the cart that you just built the stats of. So there's 4 mini games, and then the game actually suggests what mini game would fit best for your vehicle and the stats that you collected. And yeah, the game will recommend which game you should do. And so like, you know, if there's a race and you have lots of speed stats, it'll say, oh yeah, you should do the speedy one. You'll win that one, trust. But then there's also some mini games that just feel a little bit disconnected. And I find that a lot of the stats don't matter in quite a bit of these mini games. For example, there's a mini game where you just have to drop and go through these rings to get points, which is fine. It's fun. But why in the world am I building up my stats for this game specifically, aside from the weight category? But even then, I just don't feel like collecting these stats really matter. And I find this for a lot of mini games as well, especially because you have to compete with other people. It just feels a little unfair. Like if I'm in a race, someone else has more speed than me, they're gonna win. It also depends on what vehicle they have. So I don't know. I don't really love this mini game setup. It kind of feels like a waste of time after your 5 minutes. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but in this demo specifically, there's not really a reason for me to be doing it. I think when the game actually releases, it'll be a lot better when you have like unlockable stuff that you can do, and maybe if you have other friends that you want to play with and you're all battling against each other. But then there's like the really odd mini game where you're not actually battling against each other and you're all on a team. Like there was one mini game where you fight this big robotic King DDD, and I lost. I died to the King DDD. So I was like, oh man, I got in last place. But actually we all ended up winning because us as a team destroyed the King DDD. So I mean, like, what's even the point? I'm not even competing at that point. I'm just building up my stats to try and fight this robotic King DDD. It just feels too random, and the reason for playing isn't a good enough reason for me to be playing for 5 minutes straight. I don't even know. To be honest, I think that it just feels a little anticlimactic at times, but again, I think once you throw in that full game sense of you going through and you unlocking things like vehicles and possibly racers and destroying that mini game chart or whatever, you know, it can be fun. I think there's going to be a reason for me to play it. I also think it would be a lot of fun with people that you actually know. I played this by myself with a bunch of randos online, and I think if I actually got someone else to play with me that I liked or that I knew, it would be a lot more fun in that way. I just don't love how random it feels at times. And I don't know, it just lacks consistency for me to want to get better at it, if that makes any sense. Overall, it's chaotic fun, but it can just feel a little too random at times. It can also feel too hectic or too slow depending on what you're driving and the stats you have. Like at the beginning of the game, it just feels really slow. But I think that's kind of the point. You can feel the progression as the 5 minutes go on. But that fun really doesn't hit you until the last 2 minutes when you're bodying people. And especially if, you know, you could have a really horrible round where you barely get any stats. And in that case, it's just like, oh man, well, that kind of sucked. I feel like I'm talking a lot about the negatives of this game, but there also are a lot of positives. I do really love the idea of it. And I think the overall gameplay and how you progress through that 5 minutes is really fun, and how hectic it is, and you know, all that stuff. Those are just my only concerns with it. I'm going to be playing this a lot more, and again, I played this most of the demo that we played, most of this online test. I played City Trial, and there were some genuinely really fun moments. Now, for me, it felt very different to what I had played at PAX PAX in a bad way. I think this kind of stunted my enjoyment of it at first because of how different it felt at PAX West. So like I already said, I played this game before at PAX West. Nintendo invited me out to play that game in a little demo, and the game notably felt different. And I only played 2 rounds at PAX of City Trial, but those 2 rounds that I played at PAX were so different in that there were way more abilities that dropped, like crazy amount of abilities. By the end of a round in City Trial mode in the global test demo, I'd get around 40 to 60 power-ups, which is pretty generous. Like that's not bad. That's on average what I got at the end of a City Trial mode. At PAX West, I think my first round I got over 100, and the second round I got over 200 items. I was absolutely flying. I nailed it at the PAX demo, and that whole gameplay felt so hectic. It was so much fun, and maybe that was just because, you know, the hype of PAX and me being invited by Nintendo and me playing it for the first time. But I don't actually think that's it, because I had so many more items and it felt way more chaotic, thus being a lot more fun. Because this is what City Trial is really all about: being chaotic, not barely being able to control your cart by the end of it because of how much stats or speed stats you got. That's just something that I noticed instantly about this demo experience. A lot less power-ups showed up. It felt slightly toned down and less generous with power-ups. But I think the more I played, the more I kind of appreciated the concept. Like, I get it. I feel the difference still at the end of it, how fast you go. I don't know. It just felt very different compared to the PAX build that I played, and not in a great way. I feel like there's so much else I could say about City Trial mode because of how varied it gets every single round you play. And I think that's the joy of it. It feels different every single time. But I can also see a lot of people getting turned off by it because of how random it is, and there's not really a competitive reason to play this game because of how random it can feel and how chaotic it can feel. Like with Smash Bros, there's like the party audience for it, and then there's the hardcore competitive audience to it. The competitive audience for Smash Bros specifically turns off all the items, plays only on Final Destination stages, and then the party people, they put all items on and they do random stages with whatever character they want. No strategy involved. They just play the game. Those are the party people that play Smash Bros. And to me, Kirby Air Riders, at least in this demo, feels like there's really no in-between for competitive and party. It's just all party, especially City Trial mode, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that I realized, and you just can't get that much better at it in a way. I mean, okay, I will say after playing this game for like 2 or 3 hours, I did realize that I was getting better at controlling the vehicle overall after playing quite a while, especially in racing mode. But in both racing and City Trial mode, you do actually understand what the items do. You get a better feel for the game, and that's something that you really do need, especially in City Trial mode. You need to know how to control the vehicle to actually get around, or else you're just randomly cruising around. And I think that if people don't give it at least an hour to try and just sit through City Trial mode, they're not going to like it as much as some other people might think they should. But that's just my quick takeaway. So here are my final takeaways from this demo. And it's crazy that I've already been talking about it for this long. I think it's a very great foundation with some fun ideas, but the demo feels a little bit uneven in some spaces, or I think they could have explained it a little bit more. And okay, by the way, there's this inside this demo. You can play this anytime. You can do these little, they're not challenges. They're like training. You can do training, which I think you should absolutely do before you play the racing or any of that. Do these. They help you understand how to play the game. If you don't do these, you will be confused, which is something I wouldn't say about Mario Kart or something like that. So do that. I also have this weird stigma. I think that's the word that's properly used about demos. I find that demos generally hurt a game more than actually helps a game. Like the Princess Peach Showtime demo that came out before the game released, and that demo was absolutely horrible. I don't know what it was about it, but I really didn't like that demo. And if this wasn't my job and I didn't play or I didn't review games for YouTube, I probably wouldn't have even played that game. Same thing with the new Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment game. I played the demo at a kiosk and it just didn't land well for me. Yet then I go and buy the game, and it's one of the best games I played on the Switch 2. Like, it is such a good game, but just wait for my review on that. But anyways, that's something I've noticed about demos. They're giving us a taste of the game when really you need the context of the rest of the game to really enjoy this section of the game. Like with City Trial mode, I feel like I'm just missing something, and that to me I think is the unlockables and the challenges the game gives you when you play them, and all the accessories and all that stuff. But again, this is just a demo, so I hope a lot of people understand that it's just a demo. And again, for a demo, Great roster, fun abilities, and creative mechanics. A little bit inconsistent pacing and some odd control quirks. City Trial is still the star of the show, and I feel like it's prioritized a lot more than the racing mode, but I think it needs a little bit better balance. I think it needs to be a good in-between between the PAX build and this demo. But I'm sure this mode's already done. That's the thing. I'm sure it's already done. I think this is the final mode we're getting. The game literally comes out in less than 2 weeks. So yeah, that is what it is. It's fun, but I think it'll be great once the full version adds unlockables, online depth, and balance some of these tweaks. So yeah, I really rambled a lot there. And, tell me if I'm being unfair. I'm sure my opinion on the game will change next week when they do this again before the game releases the next Thursday. I'm really looking forward to the game still. And again, I know I'm being very nitpicky, but that's just what I thought about when I played the game. So let me know what you think about the demo, because you can go play it for free. And if you didn't get into it this morning, you can get into it this evening. And then next weekend they have a demo available. But go download the game, the global test demo, play through that training section. Trust me, it's worth it. And yeah, let me know what you think about this game if you're planning to pick it up. I'm excited for the amiibo and this game, obviously, but especially the amiibo. All right, have a good rest of your day again. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.